The Global Briefing on SAfm.
It is the global briefing on the morning briefing. Sachane in for Kathy Mohlahlana. Our focus this morning, we look to Venezuela, Pakistan, as well as Berlin, together with Dr. Joan Swart, researcher in military science at the University of Stellenbosch. We will connect with Dr. Swart in a bit. A couple of stories, just specifically starting with what's happening in Venezuela. But before we do so, let me just greet Dr. Swart. Thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. I see the call dropped, so sorry about that. I hope it doesn't happen again.
We trust that it will not. A few areas to look at, starting off with Venezuela. Dr. Swart's rescue teams, they're racing against time after those two powerful earthquakes devastated parts of the country, collapsing buildings, trapping residents under rubble, and leaving hundreds dead or missing. I myself was stuck in front of the television last night, just following various reports on what is happening there. What is the latest on the rescue efforts, Dr. Swart?
Yeah, no, it's a terrible situation. And as you say, you've seen some of the scenes and so on. It's really terrifying. And I see this morning's count is about 235 fatalities, with many more people missing. So I immediately thought, whether there's any touch point to state security or geopolitics, because those are kind of the areas that I'm watching. So I could think of two: state preparedness on the one side and then diplomacy on the other, interestingly enough. So as we
yes, apologies.
Sorry.
Starting with geopolitically and the state of readiness. Of course, we know the challenges that Venezuela has experienced. There's been the economic blockade as well, which in a lot of ways has had a large impact on their state of readiness.
Yes, I don't think if that's entirely true. They've been in some problems in that regard for many, many years now. So of course the first priority is humanitarian, and that exposes whether they are prepared. But that's where the second point that I made come in, and that's a lesson in disaster, what I call disaster diplomacy. So immediately Mexico responded, El Salvador, Ecuador, Brazil, and others in the area. They expressed solidarity, but not only that, but they offered assistance as well. So that's a recurring pattern in Latin America when things like this happen. There's a strong regional response that transcends any problems that they may have among each other. So they may disagree on politics, but they stand together when others need help in that regard. So it kind of reopens channels of communication, if you like, that may have been closed.
We've also of the number of countries that have said they will assist. The US also saying they are prepared to come in and assist.
Yes, of course, I saw that as well, which is of course not strange at all. They also in that same sphere of the geography, and of course involved in Venezuela.
We're in conversation with Dr. Joan Swart in our global brief, researcher in military science at the University of Stellenbosch, looking at three core stories internationally. There's also, Dr. Swart, a Pakistan court sentencing a prominent Baloch rights activist, Dr. Baloch, to life imprisonment on terrorism and murder charges, a ruling that has sparked international condemnation from various human rights organizations. Some context there. Who is Dr. Baloch, and how do we make, what do we make of this decision by the Pakistani courts?
Well, she is, supporters say or describe her as a peaceful human rights activist. And they, according to them, they say the prosecution is politically motivated. And of course, it brings to mind the case of Imran Khan, which is a little bit similar in one regard. So for me, it shows that there's a wider pattern in Pakistan where geopolitical competition increasingly intersects with their national security or the way the government sees their national security. And the problem is when these security institutions like the military in Pakistan become embedded, deeply embedded in their daily and political life. Um, the distinction between protecting the state and protecting the political order can become blurred. So, there's almost a tug of war between protecting national security and preserving the political and other freedoms of the people in the country.
It also, the story of Pakistan in itself, Dr. Swart, tells a very interesting, it paints a very interesting picture. On the one hand, there is exactly what you mentioned, issues of civil liberties at home, but at the same time, on the international stage, very recently we saw the role that Pakistan was playing in the negotiations between the US, Iran, and Israel. What do we make of that contrast or contradiction?
Well, it's a case of it's not really a contradiction if you look at it in that way. They both are very much in their interest. So in this case, they see it as in their national security interest to act the way that they did, and on the other side, it's also in their geopolitical interest to come in with the negotiations between the US and Iran. Um, so both are they see both in their own interest.
And to conclude, there is, of course, what is happening in Europe. The region's 5 biggest military powers meeting in Berlin ahead of next month's NATO Summit. What are the core areas there that we should be mindful of, Dr. Swart?
Yeah, Europe, of course, they're a little bit like a dog with a bone, and I don't know if they can really afford this bone. Um, so they are looking to have a future in which it assumes greater responsibility for their own defense. Um, so discussions focus not only on expanding their military support for Ukraine, but also increasing their defense production, their joint procurement amongst themselves, and strengthening their own defense industrial base. So the question that I have immediately is, has there, and this is Europe's strategic risk assessment become disconnected from its domestic political and economic realities? And one school of thought argues that the invasion of Russia into Ukraine fundamentally changed their perception of their security, making this type of investment and support for Ukraine necessary to deter future aggression. Now, another argument, and which is more in line with my perspective, is that I think European leaders may be overestimating the immediacy of the Russian threat, while underestimating the political, economic, and social cost of prolonging this confrontation. So states can weaken themselves economically and politically while attempting to strengthen themselves militarily. And we've seen that with the Soviet Union between 1979 and the time that they broke up, and then Britain as well around and after World War I, where they simply could not afford this prolonged military activity any longer.
A story that we'll continue to watch. Dr. Joan Swart, thank you very much. Researcher in military science at the University of Stellenbosch.